The year was 2187. Humanity had done what their ancestors only dreamed about. They had left Earth and spread across the solar system. There were colonies on Mars with over 2 million people. There were research stations on Europa and Titan. Mining ships worked in the asteroid belt, pulling out metals and minerals that Earth needed. Humans had become a species that lived among the stars. Admiral Daniel Carter had served in the United Earth Navy for 32 years. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen many things in his long career, but nothing could prepare him for what happened on June 14th. He stood on the bridge of the USS Vanguard, a heavy cruiser stationed near Jupiter. The ship was on a routine patrol, watching over the mining stations that floated in the gas giant's orbit. "Sir, we have something strange on the sensors," said Lieutenant Hall. He was young, only 24, and his voice shook a little. 17 large objects just appeared near the fourth moon. They came out of nowhere. Carter walked to the sensor screen and looked at the readings. His blood went cold. These were not asteroids. These were not human ships. These were something else entirely. Each object was massive, at least 3 kilometers long. They moved in perfect formation like a hunting pack. "Try to make contact," Carter ordered. "All frequencies, send a standard greeting." The communication officer, a woman named, worked her controls. She sent messages in every language, in every format that humans used. She sent mathematical sequences that any intelligent species should understand. The alien ships did not respond. For 6 hours, the USS Vanguard tried to communicate with the visitors. Carter felt hope and fear mixed together in his chest. This was first contact. This was the moment humanity had waited for, but something felt wrong. The alien ships did not move like explorers. They moved like predators. The first attack came without warning. A beam of bright blue light shot from the lead alien vessel. It crossed the distance to the mining station Olympus 7 in less than a second. The station, home to 4,300 men, women, and children, simply disappeared. One moment it was there. The next moment there was only expanding gas and debris. "No," Carter whispered. He could not believe what he had just seen. "Get me a connection to Earth Command, now." Before he could send his message, the alien fleet began to move. They spread out in a wide arc and started destroying everything in their path. Mining ships tried to run. They were cut down like grass before a fire. Research stations sent distress calls. Those calls ended in screams and static. On Titan, Commander Laura Griffin watched the distant flashes of light through the station's telescope. She was a small woman with dark hair and sharp eyes. She had 2 children on Earth, a boy and a girl, and she had not seen them in 8 months. Now she wondered if she would ever see them again. "What are they?" asked Dr. Henry Cole, the station's chief scientist. His hands were shaking. "I do not know," Griffin said, "but they are killing everyone they find." Earth's government responded quickly. They sent Ambassador Gregory on a diplomatic shuttle to meet the alien fleet. Was 60 years old, a career diplomat who had negotiated peace treaties between nations and corporations. He believed that all conflicts could be solved through talking. The shuttle approached the alien fleet with its weapons powered down and its lights flashing in a pattern of peace. Broadcast a message offering friendship, trade, and cultural exchange. He promised that humanity meant no harm. He asked only for a chance to talk. The aliens responded by destroying the shuttle, and his team of 12 diplomats died instantly. Their last transmission was a confused cry of surprise. General Pierce received the news in his office at Earth Command. He was a large man with a face and hands that had known hard work. He had fought in 3 wars and had buried too many friends. Now he faced an enemy unlike any he had ever known. "How many dead?" he asked his aide. "We are still counting, sir. At least 50,000 so far. The outer colonies are gone. Mars is reporting incoming hostiles." Pierce closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed in his face. The fear was still there, but it had been pushed down, locked away in a box at the back of his mind. In its place was something harder, something colder. He walked to the broadcast center and ordered a connection to every human settlement in the solar system. His face appeared on screens from Mercury to the Belt. Billions of people stopped what they were doing and listened. "People of Earth and all human colonies," Pierce said. His voice was steady and strong. "Today we faced a moment we have long imagined. We have met intelligent life from beyond our solar system. We reached out to them with open hands and peaceful hearts. They answered with fire and death." He paused, letting his words sink in. "They have destroyed our outer stations. They have murdered our diplomats. They are coming for our homes, our families, our children. They have made their intentions clear. They do not want peace. They do not want trade. They want us dead, all of us." Pierce looked directly into the camera. His eyes burned with a fierce light. "But they have made a terrible mistake. They think we are weak. They think we will run and hide and beg for mercy. They do not know us. They do not know what we are capable of when our backs are against the wall." He raised his fist. "We did not start this fight, but we will finish it. We will show these aliens what it means to threaten humanity. We will make them pay for every life they have taken. And when this is over, when the last of their ships is burning in the void, the galaxy will know one simple truth. Humanity does not die quietly. We fight. We survive. And God help anyone who tries to destroy us." The transmission ended. Across the solar system, people looked at each other with new eyes. The fear was still there, but so was something else. Something that had been sleeping in the human heart for thousands of years. It was the same fire that had driven their ancestors to cross oceans and climb mountains and reach for the stars. The aliens had come to kill them. They would learn that some prey fights back. The battle for Earth lasted 3 weeks, 21 days of fire, blood, and death on a scale that no human had ever seen before. As humans began to call the aliens based on intercepted signals, came with 17 ships. Each ship carried weapons that made human technology look like toys. Captain Mercer stood on the bridge of the destroyer USS Defiance. He was 38 years old with brown hair and a scar on his chin from a bar fight in his younger days. He had joined the Navy because he wanted adventure. Now he had more adventure than he could handle. "All ships form defensive line around the orbital platforms," he ordered. His voice was calm, but his heart was pounding. The Third Fleet had 12 ships left out of the original 40. The rest were debris floating in space. The weapons were terrifying. Their main guns fired beams of plasma that could cut through human armor like a hot knife through butter. Their shields absorbed missile impacts without flickering. Their ships moved faster than anything humans had ever built. But the human crews did not run. They fought with everything they had. When their weapons failed, they rammed their ships into enemy hulls. When their engines died, they floated in escape pods and fired handheld rockets at passing alien fighters. For every human ship destroyed, they lost something too: a sensor array, a gun turret, a piece of hull. Lieutenant Maria Santos flew a small fighter, weaving between alien beams and launching her missiles at weak points in the enemy armor. She had been a pilot for only 2 years. Now she was the senior surviving pilot in her squadron. Everyone above her was dead. "Come on," she whispered to herself. "Come on, you ugly monsters. Let me show you what humans can do." Her missiles struck an alien ship's engine pod. The explosion was small compared to the size of the vessel, but it was enough to slow it down. Other human ships poured fire into the damaged area. After 3 hours of constant bombardment, the alien ship finally broke apart. It was the first vessel to fall. The humans cheered, but their celebration was short. 16 enemy ships remained, and the human fleet was dying. On the ground, Colonel commanded the evacuation of New York City. She was a tall woman with short hair and eyes that had seen too much death. The city had been her home for 15 years. Now she watched it burn. "Move faster," she shouted at the crowds of civilians pushing toward the underground shelters. "The next bombardment is coming in 10 minutes." They did not invade like human armies would. They did not send ground troops to capture cities. They simply destroyed everything from orbit. Their beams turned buildings into dust. Their bombs created craters where neighborhoods used to be. New York fell first. The city that had stood for centuries, that had survived wars and disasters and economic collapse, was reduced to rubble in less than an hour. The Statue of Liberty melted under alien fire. Central Park became a smoking hole in the ground. Tokyo fell next, then London, then Moscow, then Beijing. One by one, the great cities of Earth were erased. The aliens showed no interest in human culture, human history, or human life. They simply wanted humans dead. Dr. Vincent Caldwell worked in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. He was 52 years old, thin and balding, with glasses that he constantly pushed up his nose. Before the invasion, he had been a professor of physics at a university. Now he was humanity's best hope. His team had recovered wreckage from a crashed scout ship. For 2 weeks, they had studied every piece, trying to understand the enemy's technology. The alien systems were advanced, but they were not magical. They followed the same laws of physics that governed human machines. "I think I found something," said Doctor. She was a scientist who studied the possibility of alien life. Now she studied actual aliens, or at least pieces of them. She showed Caldwell her findings. They had evolved on a planet very different from Earth. Their atmosphere was thick with gases that would poison humans. Their bodies had adapted to specific conditions, and that adaptation was a weakness. "Look at this," said, pointing at her screen. "Their cellular structure breaks down when exposed to certain radiation wavelengths that humans use in common industrial equipment." Caldwell felt hope rise in his chest for the first time in weeks. "Can we build a weapon based on this?" "I think so, but it will take time." Time was something humanity did not have. On July 8th, they stopped their bombardment. For a brief moment, the surviving humans thought the aliens had decided to leave. They were wrong. A single ship moved into position above Earth's atmosphere. It released a cloud of tiny particles that spread across the entire planet in less than an hour. The particles were a bioweapon, designed to change the chemical composition of the air itself. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The atmosphere that humans had breathed for millions of years became poison. People on the surface began to choke and die. Their lungs burned. Their skin blistered. Children cried for their parents and then fell silent. 3 billion people died in the first hour. Another 2 billion died in the next 6 hours. The surface of Earth became a graveyard, covered with bodies that no one would ever bury. Colonel made it to a sealed bunker with a few hundred survivors. She watched through a window as the sky turned brown and yellow. She watched people she had tried to save collapse in the streets. She watched the end of everything she had ever known. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are they doing this?" No one had an answer. In the bunkers and space stations and colony ships, 12 million humans survived. 12 million out of 15 billion. They were scattered across the solar system, hiding in the dark, breathing recycled air and drinking recycled water. They scanned the dead planet and declared victory. They had done what they came to do. The primitive species that called themselves human had been eliminated. The fleet moved on to find new targets, new species to destroy. They did not notice the small ships fleeing toward the asteroid belt. They did not notice the bunkers buried deep underground. They did not notice the burning hatred in the hearts of every surviving human. They had made a mistake. They had hurt humanity more than any enemy ever had. They had taken everything that humans loved. They had murdered billions of innocent people. And they had let some of them survive. In the dark corners of the solar system, the survivors gathered. They counted their dead. They mourned their lost world, and they began to plan. The thought the war was over. They were wrong. The war had just begun. The asteroid belt stretched across the solar system like a river of rocks and ice. It was cold there, far from the warmth of the sun. Nothing grew, nothing lived. But now it was home to the last humans in existence. Admiral Shaw stood in the command center of the converted mining station that served as humanity's new capital. She was 60 years old with white hair and hard eyes. Before the invasion, she had been a tactical genius, famous for winning battles that everyone said could not be won. Her husband and 3 children had died in New York. She had not cried since the day she heard the news. She did not have time for tears. Around her, the survivors worked in cramped spaces and dark corridors. The station had been built to hold 500 miners. Now it held 3,000 refugees. They slept in shifts, ate rationed food, and breathed air that always smelled slightly stale. "How many ships do we have?" Shaw asked her aide, a young man named Peter. 47, ma'am. Most are mining vessels or cargo haulers. Only 8 have any weapons at all. And the other stations? We have confirmed contact with 63 survival groups across the system. Total population is approximately 12 million. Shaw nodded. 12 million humans. It was a number that would have seemed enormous before the war. Now it felt tiny, a drop of water in an endless desert. Lieutenant Commander led the scouting parties. He was 35 years old, tall and thin, with a face that rarely showed emotion. He had been an explorer before the war, mapping the outer reaches of the solar system. Now he searched for something else. Hope. His ship, a small fast scout called the Wanderer, flew through the belt at the edge of the solar system. This region was even colder and darker than the asteroid belt. Chunks of ice floated in the void, some larger than mountains. No human had ever explored this area thoroughly. There had never been a reason to. "Sir, I am picking up something strange," said his sensor operator, a woman named Susan Palmer. "There is a structure ahead. It is not natural." Felt his heart beat faster. "Show me." The image on the screen made his breath catch in his throat. It was a station of some kind, but it was not human. The design was alien, with curves and angles that seemed wrong to human eyes. It was huge, at least 10 kilometers across, and it was old. Very, very old. "It is not," Palmer said. "The design is completely different." Guided his ship closer. The station was dark and silent. There were no signs of life, no power signatures, nothing to suggest anyone had been here for a very long time. "We are going inside," said. His team found a way into the station through a damaged section of hull. Inside, they discovered something amazing. This station had belonged to another species, one that had lived in this region of space long before humans existed, and that species had known The walls were covered with images and text in a language no human could read, but some things needed no translation. There were pictures of ships that looked like vessels. There were images of planets burning, of cities destroyed, of bodies piled high. They had done this before. They had killed other species, wiped them out completely. But this ancient race had fought back. In a sealed chamber at the heart of the station, found their weapons. Devices designed specifically to hurt the technology that could level the playing field. Admiral Shaw said into his communicator, "You need to see this." When Shaw arrived at the station with Dr. Caldwell and his team, she felt something she had not felt since Earth fell. She felt the cold fire of vengeance growing stronger in her chest. "Can you understand their technology?" she asked Caldwell. The scientist examined the alien devices with wide eyes. "It will take time, but yes, I think we can figure out how these work. Whoever built this place, they wanted someone to find it. They left instructions." Shaw looked at the images on the walls. Another species, murdered by had prepared these weapons in their final days. They had hidden them here, hoping that someday someone would find them and use them against the monsters who had destroyed them. "They died so that someone else could win," she said quietly. "We will not waste their gift." A week later, Shaw called a meeting of all surviving human leaders. They gathered in the largest chamber of the mining station, either in person or through video links from distant colonies. Every face showed the same thing: pain, loss, and a hunger for justice. Shaw stood before them and spoke. "I have lost my husband. I have lost my children. I have lost my world. Many of you have lost just as much or more. We are the last of our kind. 12 million souls where there were once 15 billion. They think they have destroyed us. They think we are finished." She paused and let her eyes move across the crowd. "They are wrong. We have discovered weapons that can hurt them. We have discovered that they have enemies, that other species have fought against them. We are not the first to suffer under their evil, but we will be the last." Her voice grew harder. "I am asking you to make a choice. We can hide here in the dark, surviving day by day until our supplies run out and our children forget what Earth looked like. Or we can fight. We can rebuild. We can make ourselves strong. And when we are ready, we can hunt down every last and make them pay for what they have done." She raised her hand. "I swear, on the memory of everyone we have lost, that I will not rest until they are destroyed. Who will swear this oath with me?" One by one, hands rose across the room. On every screen in every distant colony, humans stood and raised their hands. Some were crying. Some were shouting. All of them burned with the same fire. The vote was unanimous. There would be no peace. There would be no forgiveness. They had started this war with an act of genocide. Humanity would end it the same way. Admiral Shaw looked at the sea of raised hands and felt the first smile touch her face since the fall of Earth. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had finally found the scent of prey. "Then let us begin," she said. "We have a lot of work to do." The great work of revenge had started. 30 years passed in the darkness between the stars. It was a long time for those who remembered Earth, and it was all that the younger generation had ever known. Admiral Christopher stood on the observation deck of the flagship Remembrance and looked out at the human fleet. He was 45 years old now, with dark hair turning gray at the temples and eyes that held a cold and patient fire. He had been 15 when Earth fell. He remembered the day clearly. He remembered watching the sky turn brown through the window of an evacuation shuttle. He remembered his mother's hand going limp in his as she breathed her last breath. The fleet before him was nothing like the scattered collection of mining ships that Admiral Shaw had commanded 3 decades ago. There were now over 200 warships, built in secret shipyards hidden among the asteroids. Each ship carried weapons based on the ancient alien technology that had discovered. Each ship was crewed by men and women who had trained their entire lives for one purpose: war. Admiral Shaw had died 5 years ago, passing command to her most promising student. Before she closed her eyes for the last time, she had gripped his hand and spoken 2 words: "Finish it." He intended to keep that promise. Captain commanded the stealth reconnaissance ship Silent Hunter. His mission was to spy on to learn their weaknesses and map their territory. For 10 years, he had led his crew deep into enemy space, always watching, never being seen. What he had found was both horrifying and useful. The Empire stretched across 300 star systems. They had conquered or destroyed 17 different intelligent species. Their military was vast, their technology was advanced, and their cruelty was unlimited. But it also found their weakness. They were arrogant. They believed they were the supreme power in the galaxy. They believed that no species could ever threaten them, and they believed that humanity was dead. "They do not even mention us in their history records," reported to Admiral. "To them, we were just another primitive race that they wiped out. They have moved on. They have forgotten us." Smiled, it was not a warm smile. "Good, let them forget, let them feel safe. When we strike, they will not see us coming." Dr. Lisa led the weapons development program. She was the daughter of 2 scientists who had died when Earth fell. She had been raised in the cold stations of the asteroid belt, educated by survivors who passed on everything they knew. Now she was the most brilliant mind in the human fleet. Her laboratory was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Hundreds of scientists worked there, creating weapons that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. They studied the ancient alien technology and improved upon it. They analyzed biology and found new ways to exploit its weaknesses. "The Omega Protocol is ready," told Admiral during a secure meeting. "We have 3 categories of weapons. First, engineered diseases that target biology specifically. They will spread through their populations like wildfire, but they will not affect any other species. Second, radiation weapons that disrupt their cellular structure. Third, computer viruses that will crash their networks and disable their defenses." Studied the data on his screen. What will be the effect? Paused before answering. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed the weight of what she was saying. Total extinction. If we deploy all 3 protocols together, we estimate complete destruction of the species within 1 year. Silence fell over the room. Some of the officers looked uncomfortable, others looked satisfied. His face showed nothing at all. "Some people argue that we should not do this," he said. "They say that genocide is wrong, even against those who committed genocide against us. They say we should be better than our enemies." He looked around the room. "I have listened to those arguments. I have considered them carefully, and I have made my decision." He pressed a button, and a video began to play on the main screen. It showed Earth during the final bombardment. It showed children dying in the streets. It showed families choking on poisoned air. It showed the end of everything that humanity had built over thousands of years. "They did not show mercy to our children," said quietly. "They did not spare our families. They did not care about our culture, our history, or our dreams. They killed us because they could. They killed us because they enjoyed it." He turned off the video. "I will not apologize for what we are about to do. I will not feel guilt for destroying a species that has destroyed so many others. They chose this path when they attacked us without warning. They chose this path when they poisoned our world. They chose this path when they laughed at our dying screams." His voice hardened. "We are not murderers. We are executioners. We are delivering justice for 15 billion humans and countless other species that they have slaughtered. And when it is done, the galaxy will know that some prey fights back." The room was silent. Then one by one, the officers nodded their agreement. The preparations took another 2 years. Human stealth ships moved into position throughout space. They hid in asteroid fields and gas clouds, waiting for the signal. They planted weapons on enemy stations and seeded viruses in their communication networks. They prepared the trap that would end an empire. On the 30th anniversary of Earth's fall, Admiral gathered his commanders for a final briefing. "Tomorrow we begin Operation Reckoning," he said. "Every target has been assigned. Every team knows their mission. When I give the signal, we will strike simultaneously across the entire empire. They will have no time to react, no time to prepare, and no time to escape." He looked at the faces around him. Some were old, like Commander Porter and Captain, veterans who had survived the fall and spent their lives preparing for this moment. Others were young, born after the fall, raised on stories of Earth and trained for war. "This is what we have worked for," said. "This is what we have sacrificed for. This is what our parents and grandparents died for. Tomorrow, we begin the final chapter of this war. Tomorrow, we show the galaxy what happens when you try to destroy humanity." He raised his glass. "For Earth, for our fallen, for vengeance." Every voice in the room echoed his words. "For Earth, for our fallen, for vengeance." The long years of preparation were over. The time for hiding was finished. Tomorrow, humanity would come out of the shadows. And they would learn to fear. The attack began at midnight, Standard Time. Across 300 star systems, human weapons activated simultaneously. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries started to die. Admiral watched from the bridge of the Remembrance as they came into view. It was a large planet with orange skies and vast cities that stretched from horizon to horizon. Billions of lived there, confident in their superiority, certain that nothing could ever threaten them. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Begin the operation," ordered. The first phase targeted the sun. Human scientists had spent decades studying stellar manipulation technology from the ancient alien station. Now they used it. A series of devices hidden in the solar corona activated, creating a chain reaction that began to dim the star. They would have days, maybe weeks, before their sun went dark completely, but the psychological effect was immediate. Panic spread across the empire as their sun flickered and dimmed. Religious leaders called it a sign from their gods. Scientists scrambled to understand what was happening. Military commanders tried to restore order. None of them knew that this was only the beginning. Commander Porter led the assault on the main command station. Her team of 200 soldiers wore specially designed armor that protected them from the alien atmosphere. They breached the station's hull using shaped charges and fought their way inside. The guards were surprised but not helpless. They were larger than humans, with 4 arms and thick armored skin. They fought with weapons that could cut through steel. But the humans had trained for this moment their entire lives. They moved through the corridors with deadly efficiency, clearing room after room. Porter herself killed 14 during the assault. Each kill felt like justice. Each fallen enemy was payment for the billions of humans who had died on Earth. She did not feel guilt. She did not feel mercy. She felt only the cold satisfaction of revenge. When she reached the central command chamber, she found the High Council. There were 12 of them, the rulers of an empire that had murdered countless species. They huddled behind their guards, their large eyes wide with fear. The guards fought bravely, but they could not stop the human assault. One by one, they fell. Finally, only the council members remained. The supreme leader, a massive with golden markings on his skin, stepped forward. He spoke through a translator device. "You," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "You were supposed to be extinct. We destroyed your world. We killed your people. How are you here?" Porter removed her helmet so he could see her face. She wanted him to see the hate in her human eyes. "You made a mistake," she said. "You did not kill all of us. You left survivors, and we have spent 30 years preparing for this moment." The supreme leader looked around at his fallen guards, at the human soldiers pointing weapons at his council. For the first time in his long life, he understood what it felt like to be prey. "What do you want?" he asked. "We can negotiate. We can give you planets, resources, technology. We can make peace." Porter laughed. It was a harsh sound with no humor in it. "You did not offer peace to the children of Earth when they begged for their lives. You did not negotiate with the other species you destroyed. You simply killed them because you could." She raised her weapon. "There will be no negotiation. There will be no peace. There will only be justice." Across the empire, the Omega Protocol did its work. The engineered diseases spread through populations with terrifying speed. The radiation weapons disrupted their power grids and communication networks. The computer viruses crashed their defense systems and turned their own weapons against them. Some tried to flee. Human ships hunted them down. Some tried to surrender. Human commanders accepted no surrender. Some tried to hide. Human soldiers found them. The galaxy watched in amazement as the mighty empire collapsed. Other species, those who had lived in fear of them for generations, saw what was happening and could not believe their eyes. The monsters who had terrorized them were dying. Admiral received reports from across the empire, colony after colony falling, fleet after fleet destroyed, the death toll rising by the millions every hour. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we are receiving transmissions from other species. They want to know who we are. They want to know how we are doing this." Considered for a moment, then nodded. "Open a channel, let me speak to them." His face appeared on screens across the galaxy. Species who had never heard of humanity saw a human for the first time. "My name is Admiral Christopher of the United Human Fleet," he said. 30 years ago, they attacked our world without warning. They poisoned our atmosphere and murdered 15 billion of our people. They thought they had destroyed us." He paused. "They were wrong. We survived. We rebuilt. We grew strong. And now we are doing what we promised to do on the day our world fell. We are wiping them from existence, every last one of them." His eyes hardened. "Let this be a message to anyone else who might think about attacking humanity. We are not easy prey. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And if you strike at us, we will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy and destroy everything you have ever built." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, other species looked at each other with new understanding. There was a new power in the galaxy, and it was terrifying. The war ended on the 31st anniversary of Earth's fall. The last colony was destroyed. The last ship was hunted down and eliminated. The species that had murdered so many others was finally extinct. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Remembrance and looked out at the empty space where they had been. The planet was gone now, shattered by human weapons, its debris scattered across the system. Doctor stood beside him. "Is it over?" she asked. Thought about the question for a long time before answering. "The war is over," he said. "They are gone, but our work is not finished." He turned to face her. "We need to go home. We need to reclaim Earth. We need to rebuild everything that was taken from us. And we need to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again." In the years that followed, humanity returned to their home system. They used the technology they had acquired to clean Earth's atmosphere and restore the planet to life. New cities rose from the ashes of the old. Children played in parks where their grandparents had died. A great memorial was built in the heart of New Geneva, constructed on the ruins of what had once been the capital of Earth. It contained the names of every human who had died in the fall, billions of names carved in stone that would last forever. At the center of the memorial stood a simple message. It was written in every human language and broadcast into space for anyone who might be listening. "We came in peace. We were met with fire. We answered with extinction. Let this be remembered. Humanity did not start this war, but we finished it, and we will always finish it." Visitors to the memorial often stood in silence, reading those words. Some cried for the lost. Some felt pride in what humanity had accomplished. All of them understood the simple truth that they had learned too late. Humanity was not a species to be trifled with. They could be kind, generous, and peaceful. But if you threatened their children, their homes, or their future, they would become something else entirely. They would become the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. And they would never, ever stop until justice was done. The stars belonged to humanity now, and anyone who thought about challenging that belonged to the void.